my God, look, that's a tornado.
At this point, the most active tornado day for Christmas Day that we know of.
There it is.
The real issue today was the freezing rain. We had a lot of accidents around town, at least a half a dozen with injuries.
Just a huge sprawling storm.
I hope everyone heeds the warnings and stays safe.
Really, we have several days more to go with the winter impacts from Winter Storm Euclid.
Jesus, please keep your hands on whoever's over there.
Well, some wild scenes out there, and what we're tracking for you this early morning hour is a tornado watch that's in effect here across portions of southwest Georgia and into the Florida Panhandle. That includes Albany, Tallahassee, down toward Apalachicola. We've got some stronger storms rolling through. No warnings right now, but we could see some gusts up to 50, maybe even 60 miles per hour in that line. Some heavier rain moving into the upstate of South Carolina, and a lot of storm reports over the last 12 hours. Through the SPC, 33 preliminary reports of tornadoes. Dr. Forbes thinks that number is probably going to be whittled down somewhere closer to 19 or so. Either way, the most reported tornadoes on a Christmas day. Not just the storms you have to worry about in parts of the South, it is the heavy rain as well. Atlanta has gotten a big taste of that. We've talked about over 2 in the city of Atlanta, so it has been a soaker for you, and really it's beneficial. If we don't wake up to a lot of storm damage, and it doesn't appear that we've seen a lot of that yet, we're going to be talking about some of the lake levels coming up, and great news for the drought that has been so prevalent across the state. Let's track some more of that weather and take a closer look at what's happening here across the South with our severe side of the storm. You notice a big sprawling area of low pressure now, so a more mature storm system than what we had at this time yesterday. The snow in the northwest side. We're going to talk more about that coming up. A lot of the instability right now is across southern Georgia and into Florida, and this is where the thunderstorms are going to persist as they move off toward the east. So in this line, which is starting to approach I-75, again, gusty winds, maybe some small hail, but we do not have any warnings right now. The last couple of hours have been pretty much warning free, so we're looking at some slightly quieter times, at least for now. Then we've got that heavier rain that is now scooting east of Atlanta. To dry out in downtown, but very heavy still as it approaches Augusta and Greenville into the upstate South Carolina area. You're going to be talking about some very heavy rain, some howling winds. Places like Asheville, the wind has been blowing. You notice the snow here across the higher elevations of western Virginia, West Virginia state, and we could talk about a little bit of freezing rain mixing in that location, and the heavier rain pouring up into Kentucky, and this moisture here swinging into the western part of the state, changing over to heavy wet snow. A lot of rain has come down here across portions of the South, 1 to 3 inches from Atlanta westward all the way into Louisiana and eastern Texas. So a big soaking over a very continuous area. Here's the forecast for today. And as we head into the afternoon, the big severe weather threat is eastern North Carolina, South Carolina, and into southeastern Virginia. This is where we could see maybe a couple more tornadoes. We could also talk about some gusty winds, some hail, and anything that develops. And some of those could even sneak up into southern Delaware, southern New Jersey this evening, although no tornado threat there, just some gusty winds. And all that wraps up into southern New England as we head into late tonight and tomorrow. So the setup here, we've still got our storm that's marching off to the north and east. Low-level jet is out of the south. The mid and upper level jet is out of the west. So you've got that changing of winds with height, and that spins up our storms. So our red area here, anywhere east of Atlanta, you're in the clear now in terms of severe storms. So it's mainly Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and southeast Georgia. That's where we'll see the bigger storms develop. Torcon values for today, we've got them again. A 5 out of 10 in eastern and central parts of North and South Carolina. Again, that is your bullseye area. Then we go to the wintry side of all of this, what's going on. Lots of advisories and warnings are posted here. That's been the story throughout Euclid, and you're going to feel it all the way up to Maine. Oklahoma City got a taste of all this yesterday. Mike Seidel's there. He filed this report.
Good morning, Eric. It was a blustery and frigid Christmas day in Oklahoma City. We started off before sunrise, about the time Santa left town, with freezing rain, including some injuries and a big pileup out on Interstate 40. 21 vehicles, including 3 semis and 18 cars. Some injuries there. That was all set off by a semi jackknifing on an icy overpass. Then later in the morning and through the early afternoon, we had some snow. You can see some of that on the ground. 0.6 of an inch. That's it. But it was the first snowfall of the season here in Oklahoma City. What really got to you on Christmas Day was the biting wind. Wind chills were in the single numbers all day, and we had wind gusts pushing 40 miles an hour. So a real blustery cold day, and it's going to be cold again later on today. We'll see the sunshine, but highs will not get up to freezing, and that's pretty unusual for Oklahoma City. It does happen, but not often. The average high for the day after Christmas is just about 50 degrees. Eric, back to you.
Significantly cold there, Mike, there at the winter jacket and the gloves and all that pouring in behind the storm. Blizzard warnings are up for a big area. I haven't seen a lot of confirmation of blizzard conditions just yet, but things will be ramping up as the day goes on. Bottom line, snow flying, lots of wind, low visibility out there. Not good travel from northeastern Arkansas, reaching up toward Indianapolis as we head through the morning and then into Ohio. We're going to have a very wintry day for you. And then as we head toward tonight, this spreads into western New York and Pennsylvania, northern New England under winter storm warnings. Should see over a foot of snow for many of those spots. Here's the radar this morning. 9 inches of snow in Little Rock. How about that for a Christmas day? Things are tapering down, but snow is flying here around Poplar Bluff, especially off to the east. Some light snow in Paducah. You notice that bright red there? You go, whoa, what's going on? Well, a lot of that is maybe moderate snowfall, but those big flakes, they create some radar contamination. We call it bright banding, so that's likely what's going on. But some pretty good snowfall rates in this area here, confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi rivers, southern Illinois. We've got the wind blowing and the snowflakes flying. Cincinnati lifting up in your direction. You notice you're right on the fringe of where the cold air is. So it looks like it may start as some snow, maybe mix over to some rain for Cincinnati, and then we'll change back as the storm moves to the east. Visibility, half mile in Poplar Bluff, 1 mile in Jonesboro, 2.5 miles in Paducah. We've seen some thunder snow out there as well, so maybe a little bit of excitement for the weather geeks, if you will, folks like myself. You've got 30 degrees in St. Louis, 32 in Indianapolis. We'll see that temperature drop a bit as we head throughout the course of the day. So we time out the storm for you here starting at 5:30 this morning. The snow reaching up toward Indy. It'll be evaporating until that point. And then as we head into the afternoon, snow flying across pretty much all of Indiana. Highest totals for central and southern parts of the state. Ohio pasted in snow. We'll also talk about a wintry mix. West Virginia, really icy and snowy travel in the mountains. Pittsburgh, you're talking about chance for some wintry mix as well. And then this evening, the snow is covering northwest PA, around Cleveland, and spots off the lake, and then into western and southern tier of New York, and into southern New England. Keep in mind, around Hartford and Springfield, this is going to start as snow. You'll get a burst, then you're going to change over. So we look at the overnight hours, the warmer air moving into southern New England, but interior New England holds on to the cold. So the Berkshires, Monadnocks, Worcester Hills, and all points north and west, you're going to see the more significant snow. So Little Rock, we've got a storm count of 7 out of 10. You're starting to wind down, but Indianapolis, a 7 out of 10 with the storm rolling in, and all this moves off to the north and east as we head throughout your Wednesday. It's a day where a lot of us are trying to get back toward normal things, right? As some people have to work, some people are traveling. This is going to have a major impact for a lot of people here. So we're going to continue to follow that. We've got your full winter update at 50 minutes past the hour. And as you've come to expect, we've got our best in the fields, even during this holiday time, to try to keep you on top of everything. Mike Seidel is on the move from Oklahoma. He'll actually be in Buffalo, New York later on this afternoon. We've got Dave Malkoff. He's in Fishers, Indiana. He's going to start his reports later this morning. And Jim Cantori has moved over to Mobile, Alabama, and he is tracking the severe side of all this and all the latest on the damage they saw there on Christmas night. Now, on the heels of Euclid, get ready to feel a big chill. Mike Seidel, he alluded to it there, way below average in Oklahoma. We'll show you who's waking up to colder times in a minute. And speaking of the chills here, imagine escaping a school bus just some moments before it ended, a tornado rolled through. We'll talk to the bus driver who survived the fury of an EF4 tornado as we look back on the season. Well, welcome back to First Forecast. Coming up later this morning on Wake Up with Al, by the way, live reports on the two sides of Winter Storm Euclid. Dave Malkoff is covering the snowy side of the storm. He is in Fishers, Indiana, outside of Indianapolis. Jim Cantori is going to pick up the tale of the severe side of this. He'll be live in Mobile, Alabama, and their live reports begin at 6 o'clock this morning Eastern Time on a special expanded edition of Wake Up with Al. Now, this year is ending the way it began, with tornado trouble. It seems like the very early parts of the year, the end of the year, busy when they're usually not very busy times. Our own Jen Carfagno looks back at some of the most destructive tornadoes this year, many of which were back in January, February, and March. And it looks like we don't have that story right now, and now we do. Good morning, everybody. Here it is.
69 tornadoes, 9 of them killer, resulting in 40 deaths in 12 states.
Just on the heels of 2011, where Tuscaloosa and Joplin are still fresh in our minds, all of a sudden, here we go again with another historic tornado outbreak.
Things were falling, things were coming off the walls, noise, crashes, glass flying everywhere. It was like a dream.
Probably the most noteworthy tornado was an EF4 that hit Henryville, Indiana.
With wind speeds topping 170 miles an hour, It devastated this tight-knit community.
I'll never forget the people's faces when we were getting into town. I mean, they're just like zombies, walking out of town with whatever they could grab. I mean, these kids are just in shock. I mean, you can just tell. It's totally flipped the town upside down.
Homes were reduced to rubble, and both the elementary and the junior-senior high school were destroyed. The destruction was captured on security cameras, as well as the split-second decision of school bus driver Angel Perry to get the 11 children on her bus back to the school in a hurry.
Look at their surveillance video. You can see the kids getting off the bus, getting into the school, and then boom, here comes the tornado.
The bus ended up across the street, thrown into a restaurant.
I just thought, I need to get on that bus. I need to show everybody what that bus looks like from the inside out. And I mean, of course, it was just mangled.
There was another very noteworthy tornado, perhaps a record tornado for its location in eastern Kentucky and West Virginia, carved at least an 85-mile-per-hour path across West Liberty, Kentucky.
This EF3 tornado definitely left its mark.
I just thought, you know, it was over. And I just held my husband's hand. And I thought we was all dead.
All throughout the week, we'll focus on the big weather stories of the year. Then you can join us on Friday night for a special on 2012, A Year Out of Season. It premieres at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll air again at 11 p.m. Eastern right here on the Weather Channel. It's amazing to look back at some of those sites. The beginning of the year was so big for tornadoes, but when all is said and done, the final tally here, we're actually going to be one of the quietest tornado years ever recorded here in the lower 48. So perhaps we're still fortunate, especially compared back to 2011. Let's talk about what's going on here in terms of our wintry weather that's out there on the map and the severe weather. We've got two things going. Tornado watch is up across southern Georgia, the Florida Panhandle. That's in effect until 4 o'clock Central Time. So that's one of the stories that we're watching for you. And then we also are going to be talking about the wintry side of all this with the snow coming down across the country. Let's see, hold on one second here. We've got a little clicker issue with the computer. So we're basically going to be watching these storms march off to the east as we head throughout the day. Right now they're holding together around Albany and Tallahassee. Could see some gusts up to 50 miles per hour in some of those storms as they move off toward the east. Then we go to the wintry side and all the cold air that is pouring down from the north. Look at some of the temperatures on the map here. Omaha 0 degrees, 5 in Dodge City, 2 in Denver, 5 below in North Platte, and 4 degrees in Minneapolis. There is a lot of cold air out there for the day after Christmas. Highs today staying in the 20s for Kansas City, teens in Minneapolis, 11 degrees in Bismarck, Oklahoma City, 33. Average highs up around 50. You'll definitely feel the chill. So we head toward tomorrow, 33 in Chicago, 31 in Pittsburgh with some wintry weather. Memphis staying around 41 degrees for your high temp. Place like Dallas, you were all over the map yesterday. Today we're in the 30s. Tomorrow we're in the 40s. Should be back up around 50 by Saturday and into the mid-50s by the time we get towards Sunday. So a warm-up is coming today. Certainly the coldest day in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Then into Kansas City. All right, so we've got some chilly air for today with those lower 30s on the map. 30s stick around for much of the week and into the weekend. By Sunday, we see a little bit of moderation, and we'll be looking at temperatures rising up into the middle 40s. And in Denver, another spot here where we've had some cold weather. Christmas Day was very chilly. Highs stay in the 20s for today, tomorrow, Friday. We rebound to the mid-30s as we head toward the weekend. So let's look at some of those colder things on the map. As for your winter weather update, that's coming up next year on First Forecast. We're going to go in depth on where the snow is going to fall as it works its way from western Kentucky and northeast Arkansas all the way up to Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Some big totals. It's all coming up after your local weather on the 8s. Well, it doesn't happen too often, but when it does, maybe you celebrate it in Dallas-Fort Worth. That is a white Christmas. Thanks to Winter Storm Euclid, you saw one after all the heavy rains of hail, thunderstorms, temperatures in the 50s. They dropped into the 30s yesterday, and then we saw a couple inches of snow coat the ground. Some big changes there in the Big D. Now we're tracking that storm off toward the north and east. You know, most of the country has snow on the ground right now. We had such a warm start to December. It's still going to go down as an above average month, but over 50% of the nation, lower 48, has snow. So many saw a white Christmas. And now we've got our storm that's rolling up, moving off toward the north and east. We've had quite a few snow reports here around the panhandle of Texas. You had a white Christmas around Amarillo and Lubbock. We've had some heavy snow reports in southeast Oklahoma, Arkansas, and now moving into Missouri and Kentucky. There are some of those reports around Dallas. One of those coming in with 3.5 inches in Plano, just off toward the north. And then as you move toward the Little Rock area, we've had up to 8.5 inches of snow in North Little Rock. The highest total I've seen around there is 9 inches. In a few spots in Arkansas, up to 12 inches of snow. The National Weather Service office in Little Rock, they've been around for 40 years, and they issued their first ever blizzard warnings for this storm. Here's the snow this morning. We've got it across southeastern Missouri. It's tapering off in Arkansas, so we're about done here. Now moving into southern Illinois and southern Indiana, starting to see the snow come down. Some light snow in Paducah for the moment. Heavier as you move up across the border into Illinois. Some low visibilities here. Snow now reaching the ground just south of Bloomington. Louisville on the line. You might have some wet flakes mixing in, but it's mainly rain at the moment. In Evansville, starting the changeover process also. You head toward Indy. This not reaching the ground, but eventually it will later on this morning. Columbus, and especially as you get from Columbus north and west. Very snowy day on tap here for the day after Christmas. Travel is going to be a pretty difficult proposition for you. Visibility, we've got 2.5 miles in Paducah, ½ mile in Poplar Bluff, 1 mile in Jonesboro. So none of these cities experiencing blizzard conditions right now. You have to have less than a ¼ mile visibility for a few hours to get to that status. But the wind is gusting up to 29 miles per hour in Evansville, 36 miles per hour in Poplar Bluff, even Atlanta gusting well above 20 miles per hour here. So anything that's on the ground is going to be moving around and creating some hazardous travel. So here's the forecast heading through the day. We head toward lunchtime, the early afternoon. Most of Ohio, you're into the snowfall. Most of Indiana into the snowfall. Rain across eastern Kentucky, and a wintry mix here across West Virginia, mountains of West Virginia State. And you're all going to be talking about some nasty travel for there. So we head toward the evening. Snow spreads across the southern tier in New York, Rochester, Binghamton, into Buffalo, Pittsburgh. Looking at the snow, northeast Ohio, some lake enhanced snowfall on top of all this. And tomorrow morning, keep in mind here into southern New England, you're going to get a burst of snow overnight. Then the changeover begins, but from the Berkshires to the Monadnocks in north and west, that's where you're probably going to stay with some snowfall and some pretty hefty totals. Indianapolis, we've got a storm con of 7 out of 10 for you today. Heavy snow and wind developing, 5 to 8 inches of accumulation, wind gusts upwards of 35 miles per hour. Could see snow showers tonight, windy, some more drifting going on, lows back into the 20s. Tomorrow the sun comes out, but it stays cold, low 30s, so not a lot of melting going on. Cleveland, timing it out for you. We've got a storm con of 8 out of 10, 6 to 10 inches of snow expected before midnight tonight. Gusty winds developing. Could see 3 to 5 inches tonight on top of that, so a storm total upwards of a foot for you. And tomorrow we've got winds 20 to 30 miles per hour. Certainly, travel very much impacted by all this. If you're heading to airports today, Christmas on a Tuesday, sometimes that leads to some trouble because a lot of us have to go back to work by Wednesday or Thursday. Well, here's what we've got. Memphis, some morning snow, but wind. Atlanta, wind is going to be the issue here. Raleigh, potentially some severe storms. Cincinnati dealing with that wintry mix. So stay with us. We're staying live with you throughout the day here, tracking Euclid as it affects many folks. The latest on the severe side is after the break. Caught on tape, a tornado tracking through Mobile, Alabama. Coming up, the damage it produced and who faces more severe weather as we head through your Wednesday. Winter storm Euclid not only gave Dallas a white Christmas, it dumped 9 inches of snow on Little Rock, Arkansas, up to a foot in some towns in the state. Your first forecast on the places that could get just plastered over the next 3 days starts right now. Forecast as we track all sides of our latest winter storm. And not just the snow, but the severe on this one. Thanks for being with us here. If you're watching, clearly you're concerned about the weather in your hometown. I'm meteorologist Eric Fisher, and we've got a tornado watch until 4 o'clock this morning. That's across southwestern Georgia and into the Florida Panhandle. We have a little bit of lightning, some gusty winds. These storms are not as strong or as dangerous as what we saw during the day yesterday and into the evening, where we saw many tornadoes reported here. So the severe side of what we're calling Winter Storm Euclid continues to drive south and east, and then the snowy side out across the lower Ohio Valley. We'll talk about that coming up. So tracking some of those storms and where they are right now, we have no tornado warnings, no severe thunderstorm warnings. That is the good news. But the impacts today could continue. Our severe weather expert, Dr. Greg Forbes, counts that at least 19 preliminary reports of tornadoes have come in. He's whittling down the number from the Storm Prediction Center. That would be the most ever recorded on a Christmas day. Mississippi saw several of those tornadoes. The state's governor has declared a state of emergency there. And another apparent tornado ripped through part of downtown Mobile, Alabama. It damaged businesses and a high school in that city. And just a few hours ago, our own Jim Cantori arrived in Mobile, and he updated us by phone on the damage he saw both in Mobile and on his drive there.
Well, I'll tell you, there's spots where there's just no power. Home after home after home. I mean, you can just imagine when people woke up and enjoyed Christmas morning with their kids and their families, they probably didn't anticipate not having power and in some cases having the damage, guys. But we made our way down from Hattiesburg, we went through Wiggins, and Wiggins may have had a tornado there. There were trees across the road, and we had to get rerouted around, and that's why it took us so long. But, you know, I'm just looking into the Mobile chat site and through here. I mean, look at all these tornadoes reported in Riverwood, in Theodore, in Plattsburgh, Luverne, all these areas up in Mississippi, Texas County. And guys, here's the tornado again that we're talking about in the Mobile area. Looked like a huge wedge tornado that came through, did some damage to hospitals, to this Murphy High School that I have not seen yet, but you know, that's the area that we're trying to make our way to. So homes, businesses in the Midtown Mobile area have been damaged. Also, about 19,000 to 25,000 customers without power here, with trees and power lines down. And the latest out of Jackson I wanted to share with you. I just saw 6 injured reported now. So this was what I was reporting about earlier when I was up in Hattiesburg, 3 miles to the southwest of McNeil. Emergency managers just found coming with that report. 6 injuries there and reports of damaged or destroyed at least a dozen homes up there. You know, we can't help, you know, at least get everybody out of harm's way, but we can do the best job that we can. And I think that the word did get out because of, you know, models these days. Technology really helped us out. Certainly a historic day in terms of tornado counts.
Well, not what you hope for on a Christmas holiday. Really a miracle that no one was killed there in Mobile when you look at some of that video. So Euclid right now, it is strengthening and working its way off toward the north and east, a more mature storm system right now compared to what we saw this time yesterday. You look at the wintry side of things, southern Illinois, Indiana, southeastern Missouri, also some wintry weather in the higher elevations of Virginia and West Virginia. We'll get to that in a moment, but the severe side is here on the southern flank. Still some big storms from Macon southward down toward Tallahassee. No warnings on any of those cells. That's the good news. We haven't had any warnings over the last couple of hours, so certainly an improvement compared to where we were last evening. Some heavy rain is still working its way into the upstate of South Carolina. No severe here, and so this is great news. The lakes are running very, very low. Drought, a huge story across South Carolina and into northern Georgia. We've seen anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of rainfall so far, so that's going to go a long way for us. We head farther to the north. Rain coming down heavily in the mountains of North Carolina. Now moving into Charlotte, we've got rain reaching into the lower elevations and western parts of West Virginia, but you do notice the snow breaking out elsewhere. And even down, it looks like around Grandfather Mountain, it looks like it could be snowing some of the higher elevations there in North Carolina. Rain has been very prevalent across the south, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rain over a very broad area. And here's how we time things out as we head through today. Those storms rolling east. Looks like some real nasty weather this afternoon from southern Delaware, Virginia, stretching down across the outer banks of North Carolina, and potentially some bigger storms in eastern South Carolina before all that gets its way a little farther off toward the north and east. By 9:30 this evening, could see some heavy rain, some thunderstorms even working into New Jersey, and we'll look at some wintry weather into southern New England. It'll start as snow and then start to change over a little bit, and then we quiet things down in the severe side by the afternoon, or by tomorrow morning, I should say. This morning, we've got that little sliver of the warm sector still. A low-level jet is out of the south. Our mid and upper-level jet stream energy is out of the west. So you've got that turning of winds with height. That's why we've had the tornado danger. The red zone for today includes Virginia, southern Delaware, working around North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, including Orlando and Tampa. I'll have to be on the lookout for some of these bigger storms today. Torcon values, this is what we're facing, a 5 out of 10 in eastern and central North Carolina and South Carolina. Now let's talk about the wintry side and what we're looking at there. We've had some snow coming down across Arkansas, and look at Little Rock. 9 inches of snow on the north side of the city. Some spots in Arkansas have seen up to 12 inches of snow. Gusty winds, the National Weather Service office there. Been around for 40 years. This is the first time they'd issued a blizzard warning. Well, we've got more blizzard warnings that are out anywhere from northeastern parts of Arkansas up through the lower Ohio Valley, and these stretch all the way up toward Indianapolis and just west of Columbus. We haven't seen any blizzard conditions this morning, but as things work their way through the morning into the afternoon, we could be talking about some gusty winds blowing around the snow and some pretty hefty snowfall rates. By tonight, it moves into New York State, and tonight into tomorrow, a lot of snow coming down. Ski areas here, northern New England and New York. This is a bonanza. If you planned a holiday vacation, yes, you will have plenty of fresh snow. Here's the snow as it stands right now. Still some flurries around Memphis, but tapering. In Arkansas, you are coming to an end here, so your snow totals are about done. But the moisture is pouring into southern Indiana and Illinois, western Kentucky, around Paducah and Carbondale. We've seen some reports over 4 inches of snow so far. Then we head towards Cincinnati. You are right on the line. It looks like you may stay with the wintry weather and certainly change over solidly into wintry weather as the storm moves north and east. Visibility 3/4 of a mile in Poplar Bluff, 1 3/4 mile in Paducah. So that's not terribly heavy snow, especially when you consider the fact the wind's blowing that around. That's some good news, but travel's still going to be pretty rough. 30 degrees in St. Louis, 32 right on the freezing mark in Indy this morning. And here's where the snow goes as we head through the day. Pretty much all of Indiana, almost all of Ohio, all dealing with the snowfall. If you're in the mountains of West Virginia, Maryland, and Virginia, that's also going to be icy. And then by tonight, southern tier in New York, snowflakes will be flying, and a lot of them will be coming down. Stay with us here on First Forecast. Not just this storm, but another one coming. We're going to track that. We'll update you on a deadly mess in the west due to winter weather. It's after your local on the 8s. Snowplows hit the streets as Winter Storm Euclid brought some light snow to Denver. The Front Range measuring snow in feet on the mountains. Denver itself measuring the snow into inches, but they had a white Christmas, and they got the snow crews out in full force there. Now, all that snow in the west has increased the danger of avalanches. We've seen that over the past week, and in California, one has proven deadly, as Kevin Oliver of KCRA explains.
Ski patrol raced down the hill with the avalanche victim to a waiting ambulance where paramedics tried to save the man with CPR. The Truckee man had been buried for almost 5 hours by that point. His friends left on our ski ranch in shock. They said the man just moved back to the area and this was his first outing of the season.
We had been telling ski patrol, like, we're missing a guy, but they didn't start looking for him until like 2-3 hours later.
The man was found buried in more than 2 feet of snow at the base of a rocky ridge. Friends said he was snowboarding above it when the snow broke free. His friends said they searched where he was spotted just before the slide.
His friends, the other friends that were going to be at our group, were looking for him and probing around, but they didn't find him, and he was at the bottom of the cliff instead of the top.
Sheriff's deputies said the resort's ski patrol did do a preliminary search.
They did initial kind of a courtesy search around, didn't find anything. We're concerned for safety reasons because of the unstable ice that's still up there, so they kind of backed off.
But after more time passed and there was still no sign of the man, search crews from neighboring resorts were called in and the victim was found. The resort was shut down for the day and skiers and snowboarders were sent home.
On Sunday, 3 riders triggered an avalanche at Squaw Valley. 2 people received minor injuries, but no one was buried by the snow. And more snow is on the way in the mountains of the west. Yet another wintry mess on the move here. We've got winter storm warnings up for eastern Oregon, stretching into southwestern Idaho. The Sierra seeing more snow come down, and into Salt Lake City, you're under a winter weather advisory. Same goes for Grand Junction and western parts of Colorado. So a little bit of jet stream energy is diving down. You can see it right in here now, crossing into California. Moisture plume out ahead of that, spreading the snowfall. We've got some light snow in and around Salt Lake City moving in, so it's definitely cold enough for all snow with this one. We've also got the snow in the mountains of Nevada, northern California picking up some snowfall, just rain showers in Redding. Around Tahoe picking up more big snow totals, some spots for 4 feet of snow here earlier on in the week, so certainly snowfall is not an issue. Even the southern Sierra now picking up some of that snow activity. We track this storm as it moves across the country. It will be impacting people coast to coast for the next couple of days, bringing snow across the Rockies. Could see some snow into the southern and central Appalachians as we head towards Saturday. Beginning of the weekend, even into the mid-Atlantic, D.C., New York, all need to watch this for a chance of a little bit of snow. As we get towards Sunday, the trend over the last 24 hours has been for this to move a little farther out to sea. That would lessen the impact, lead to less snowfall, places like Boston, Providence, and Cape Cod. But stay tuned, it's still several days away, and we'll see if that trends back toward the coast. Then it would certainly have more significant impacts for you. Now, Cleveland, Ohio, one place that's definitely in line for the snow, and that's courtesy of Winter Storm Euclid. So this is in the short term. Cold enough for it, 32 degrees, right on the freezing mark. We could see a foot of fresh snow in Cleveland before all is said and done. Let's give you the forecast hour by hour with our local view here. And basically, temperatures are going to hover into the low 30s as we head throughout the day. You take a look at the forecast, and the clouds are starting to move in. The snow, it will be following later on this morning, and then certainly into this afternoon. Those rates will increase. So there's the forecast. You notice the timestamp there. We head to 2 o'clock. The snow starts to fall by this afternoon. It picks up by this evening, really coming down. So if you need to travel, run some errands, you want to do it in the morning in Cleveland. This afternoon, it's going to get real sloppy out there on the roads. New York City, clouds also rolling in. It's chilly out there. Low 30s for this morning as you get outside. We'll be working our way into the mid-30s this afternoon. By the time we head toward this evening, yes, snow starts to fall. That will change over to rain during the overnight. Quick look at some eyewitness video. You've been helping us track the storm, standing off in some of these shots. This one coming in out of Lawton, Oklahoma. A white Christmas there. Welcome back to First Forecast. New into us overnight, video of the damage that you're finding in Mobile, Alabama. An apparent tornado ripped through the downtown area yesterday evening, with reports of thousands that are still without power, and damage to a high school and buildings in and around the downtown. Our own Jim Cantori is there, and he's going to update us live later on this morning. A lot of times you have to wait for the sun to come up to really tell what happened in a city after a tornado comes through. The severe side of Euclid has also proven deadly. In Tomball, Texas, one person died trying to help another as fierce winds from Euclid howled. Mary Lee of KPRC has more details.
A very sad situation out here, devastating and now deadly. We now know that one person is dead. We had several trees topple over in this area north of Houston in Tomball. More than 30 trees fell. One tree actually fell on top of the road right here on Eldridge Road. And a person was actually a good Samaritan, was trying to remove the tree from the roadway, and then another tree suddenly fell on top of that person. And now we are learning that person is dead. The body has been removed, but officers have blocked off the scene and blocked off the roadway out here. We had a strong storm move through, dumping heavy rain and kicking up the winds. We have winds gusting up to 44, 50 miles per hour. And in the hour that we have been here, we have seen 2 trees fall, and we continue to hear crackling noises out here with several trees, and a line of trees are actually dead, but they are continuing to fall in these strong, gusty wind conditions. So unfortunately, a devastating and deadly scene here in Tomball, north of Houston. Reporting for the Weather Channel, I'm Mary Lee.
Well, Mary Lee, thank you for the update there. If you go to weather.com, we've got video of some of the storms that were rumbling across the south, including a couple views of that tornado that went through Mobile last night. Probably the most striking scene that we saw from Christmas evening. And really, one person killed is one too many, but it could have been much worse across a big portion of the south. Let's talk about what's going to be happening over the next 7 days here. The closing days of 2012, if you can believe that. We're almost to the new year. Today, we've got our storms continuing, especially Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Southeast Georgia, and Florida. That's the severe zone. Then we've got the wintry side from southern Illinois, reaching up into the southern tier of New York by this evening. New York City, southern New England, you're going to start as snow with this storm, then change over to rain in the 95 corridor. Temperatures are cold, 36 the high in Dallas, 28 in Kansas City, 19 in Minneapolis. Remember, it was a very warm start to December. It's still going to go down as above average month, but definitely more wintry end than beginning. We head toward tomorrow. Snow will be flying in earnest across interior sections of the Northeast, New York, Pennsylvania, northern New England, and eventually that snow line crashing toward the coast. Then we've got our energy in the west, creating snow across the Rockies. Lots of cold air here in the northern tier. A good section of the nation is at or a little below average. That's a change of pace for us. But you look at New York and Boston, those strong southeasterly winds getting into the 40s tomorrow, so the change over to rain. We head toward Friday, and our western energy starts to move to the Gulf Coast. This brings some thunderstorms. Does not look like the severe weather maker that we just saw with Euclid. That's the good news. We look at the temps in 43 in Louisville, 31 in Kansas City. It's cold on the northern tier, so that could create a little bit of snowfall for us, certainly as we head into Saturday. Looks like the southern central Appalachians could do fairly well for some snow. We'll watch D.C., Richmond into New York City and Philly. This could be a snow producer for you on Saturday. Looks like maybe a small to moderate event right now. And then as we head towards Sunday, the trend has been a little farther off the coast. If that moves back to the west a little bit, could have a significant nor'easter. As it stands, snow showers and wind and cold temperatures in the forecast here. We get to Monday, New Year's Eve. Looks like some rain across Texas, some showers starting to sprout up. Big part of the country will be fairly quiet, and if you're in New York for the ball drop, 34 degrees. Chilly weather for you. By Tuesday, this storm starts to blossom across the southern states. Today, a day where a lot of folks maybe want to use some of those gift cards. You head out to the mall, shops, maybe even return a thing or two. You know, crazy uncle or aunt buys you a present. Maybe you would like to trade in for something different. We know what happens. You go to the Mall of America today, cold. You'll be happy to be inside. 19 degrees, your high temperature here in Bloomington, Minnesota. You head toward 5th Avenue this afternoon and evening. Rain and snow mix starts to move in. So if you want to head out in the streets, I think it's the morning hours you're going to want to do that. So later on today, not as nice. Cold at the Galleria in Dallas, mid-30s today, back into the 20s tonight. And coming up on First Forecast as we roll on, we'll continue to track the two sides of Euclid. We'll look back at 2012's tornado trouble, and your full winter weather update is at 50 past the hour.